Zoom in Zim. I've coined these two Zimbabweans' favorite couple, arbitrarily, I'm not ashamed to say. Welcome, Jaimie and Sarah.
Thank you so much, Mucha.
Thank you, Mucha. Thank you for having us on this platform. It's great to be here.
Absolute pleasure. And I'm sure you'd have seen that Sarah and Jaimie have got a platform where they talk the word of God, they encourage Zimbabweans, and they're just awesome. So rather than me go into a spiel about what I think of you two, perhaps you could tell us a little bit about yourselves. So really, what defines you as individuals and as a couple?
I've been married to Sarah now 26 years. We have 4 children, aged 25 all the way down to 9. Our home is in Wickham in the United Kingdom. I am a product of some great schools in Zimbabwe. So I went to St. Ignatius College, went to Prince Edward, and also graduated from the University of Zimbabwe as a lawyer in 1997. Qualified as a solicitor in 2005. And over the last sort of 15 years have been working predominantly in the areas of commercial property and commercial contracts. More recently became a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators and also the Chartered Institute of Secretaries. So our main focus at the moment as an advisory group is working and providing strategy for a lot of large companies, a lot of large property holders in the United Kingdom, including PLCs. In a nutshell, that's my background.
Most impressive. And Sarah, we know that women have got a pivotal role in all things order and all things progress. Tell us a bit about yourself.
I support him 100%, but my profession is I'm a business psychologist, and we work within organizations to help with things like culture in the organization, working with vision, values in an organization. I'm also an executive coach, and I've been surprisingly finding myself quite busy in this downtime because we've got a few people now who are a little bit concerned about what trajectory or what turns or what direction the careers are going to take post the global shutdown. So in a nutshell, that's what I do. I would say we're serial entrepreneurs, and we love business, we love enterprise, we love trying new things and going for it.
And that's the great thing about platforms such as this. Most people might associate you with the church end to end, but there's so much more to you two, which makes it really more compelling, I think, to listen to you because you're not one-trick ponies, essentially. I say that to those who may be.
I believe God has put so many giftings and tributaries in us. And sometimes we sort of like just run with the one, yet there's so many other parts of us that we need to express and discover.
I'm with you. I've got a little anecdote. If you see, I've got these 2 signature paintings behind me that feature all my stuff. Anyone who went to school with me will tell you that I was the last person you wanted to see in an art classroom. And what I've done in these downtimes is learn how to paint. So that's the product of my work. I'm very proud of it, and I plug it into everything.
Excellent.
That is not about me. Moving then on to COVID-19. When you heard that it's turned into a global pandemic, what was your immediate response when you thought Zimbabwe?
Our immediate response was, can our nation handle this? Because I think as we watched events unfold, it started off in China and we saw things happening. And then for us who are, within Europe, it came closer and closer. And then we saw it in Italy and in Spain. And we saw just the way they were struggling just to battle it. We began to wonder if this thing goes down to Africa and more specifically to our nation, will we be able to tackle this?
And of course, it doesn't help that there have been myths floating around that Africans are immune to this sort of thing. We've got thick skin, it doesn't touch us. So it's quite harrowing to start learning of actual relatable deaths as a result of COVID-19.
And I think the concern was, look, are we equipped to handle it? Do we have the resources? Do we have the collective will? And critically, and you highlighted it, do we have an understanding of how serious this is? This is not, it's not a racial issue. It's a humanitarian concern. And so we were, immediately, concerned about how do we change that narrative. And so even in conversations that we were having within our networks, it was just trying to raise awareness of the fact that let's just be very careful about what we're saying here. This is not even a judgment upon the West, because that was some of the rhetoric that we heard as well. This is a global challenge, and it was important for us to come together collectively as humanity, as people, and just come up with solutions.
So what space did you carve out for yourselves then in the fight against COVID-19?
Well, the first thing that we do, because obviously we wear a number of hats. I mean, Sarah spoke about what we do in terms of the pastoral side, and I mean that's what a lot of people are familiar with. But for many, many years now, we've run an organization called My Destiny Inc. And My Destiny Inc. Since 2004, really. So for the last 16 years, we've been involved in capacity building all over the world. Just really bringing people to an understanding of the resources that they have or do not have, but allowing them to start building their lives by design. And over, last year in particular, we were involved in a number of initiatives in Zimbabwe, funny enough, in Bulawayo. We do a lot of work with young people. So we started initiatives with young people, again, taking them off the streets, encouraging them to get involved in sport, establishing feeding programs. And we've done similar work in South America, something that we're particularly excited about. So typically we take, 300 kids off the street, put them in a sports program, make sure that we pay fees for those who cannot pay, and also provide feeding programs for them as well. So a lot of the focus has been on what we do, which is we go in front of the camera, we want to encourage people, we want to sharpen them, we want to give them practical, advice on things like marriage and, how to raise, kids and stuff like that, because obviously we have some experience in that area. But there's a lot of practical stuff that we do behind the scenes, which is really about now ensuring we're not just investing in ourselves or, our peers, but we're investing in the next generation, the young people who, for the most part, don't have that investment coming their way.
And for anyone who might feel some resonance to what you've just said and feels, I want to get involved in what you're doing, how would they go about doing so?
Oh, very easy. You can get in touch with us. We have a website, mydestinyinc.org. Our email addresses are on there. You can just send us an email. We're starting more and more to profile some of the work that we're doing, because again, I think it's what we've done by design is not put work in one locality. So obviously we're Zimbabwean. So the idea was to start at home and, our Jerusalem, if you like. But the idea was to then spread our wings and go into South America, into disadvantaged communities. And we're getting a lot of collective goodwill because of that. It's, again, us recognizing we're just people, people with common problems. And if we can try and tackle poverty wherever it is, then, if anybody wants to be involved in that battle, we'd definitely welcome this support.
Absolutely.
So there's an emerging theme talking to you about just a really broad consideration for society at large. And of course, coming from Zimbabwe, where there are real issues that people are facing, an example I might give is I have a choice between kufanenzara and staying home because I've been locked in. Which of the two would I rather go with? What is your position on mobilizing Zimbabweans, one, to take this seriously, two, to perhaps find ways of surviving in what are otherwise really dire circumstances?
Desperate times call for new tactics. So it's not just desperate times call for desperate measures, but sometimes they also call for new tactics. We're forced to think outside of our norms and to really dig deeper into some of our resources and into some of the other ideas and ways of making an income. We were speaking the other day and just talking about how for those who are in some kind of enterprise of some sort or in business, where a lot of businesses are going to have an online presence, because whilst we're all sat at home, industry has not completely ground to a halt. There's some people who are innovating right now and jumping onto the online platform and using that. You assess the lay of the land and you realize everything else has been shut down, but media is working and the internet is working and buying and selling online is working. So you then find a way of adapting. That's one nugget that I would contribute towards that.
Yeah.
I'll jump in there and say it becomes really important when you're entrusted with someone's livelihood to deliver, because my frustration personally is I want to give work to my fellow Zimbabweans. I want to empower people. But if it takes 3 weeks to do something that should take 3 hours, chances are I'm going to go with somebody I know is going to deliver on that.
Absolutely. And I think, just to add on to what both of you have said, I think it's a time where we have to embrace lateral thinking, because the world as we know it has changed. It has changed inexorably. We're never going to go back to doing things the way that we used to do them. Once we embrace that and once we own that, then we can become more creative. And so a lot of the traditional mindsets and the traditional ways of doing things have got to go by the by. We have to be comfortable with uncertainty. We have to embrace it. And we have to start looking at how do I deliver a service in an innovative way, in a very creative way, in a timely way that can ensure that whoever my demographic that I'm serving is, that they're satisfied with the quality of what I'm bringing to the table. So it's a new world, but we must embrace it.
You know, with Zimbabweans, I've got every confidence that we will be able to tackle the new world post, you know, however long everyone is shut down, because Zimbabweans have been very adaptable through some very, very difficult and tough terrain. Over the last 20 years, definitely, you know, they adapt. And not saying that adapting all the time is a great thing. No one wants to have to live a life where you're constantly having to adapt, you know, because that is the status quo. But I have every confidence in our resilience as a people. Even with this too, we will find a way.
Well, you two, thank you so very much for being on Zoom in Zim. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. I shall be watching you more online as I do. I'm your positive keyboard warrior.
Thank you.
Likewise, it's mutual.
So look out for you guys. Thank you again very much, and keep doing what you're doing. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.